Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to tear into a really fascinating technical report on a stock, Asset Entities, or ASST. And this thing is a classic Wall Street mystery, right? It's just full of conflicting clues, and our job is to try and piece it all together.
All right, so our story kicks off with this number right here, a 12.2% drop in a single day. I mean, wow. That's the kind of move that makes everyone sit up and take notice, and it's basically the reason we're even looking at this thing. The big question is, what in the world happened here?
And this quote, which is pulled right from the report's conclusion, it just perfectly captures the whole puzzle we're dealing with. On one hand, you've got these bearish signals that make it look like it's in a total freefall. But then, there are these little whispers of a comeback. So which is it? Is this a falling knife you don't want to touch, or is it a coiled spring just waiting to bounce? Well, let's find out. So here's the deal. This stock is a total paradox. It's sending out two completely different messages at the exact same time. It's showing signs of being super weak, but also having some real underlying strength. So our goal today is to unpack all these signals and figure out which one might actually have the upper hand. You really have to think of this like a detective story. All the obvious evidence, it points in one direction, down. But then you've got these little subtle forensic clues that suggest the complete opposite. So to solve this thing, we gotta be methodical. We have to look at every single piece of evidence, and we're gonna start with the event that kicked this whole investigation off in the first place. Okay, let's get right into it. We're diving into the scene of the crime, you could say, that really dramatic price action from October 28th. This is where it all starts, and really understanding what went down here is the key to figuring out what might be coming next. So, on the surface, this looks pretty simple, right? The stock dropped from $1.64 down to $1.44. But, as any good detective will tell you, the first facts you see rarely tell the whole story. We've got to dig a little deeper. And this is where it gets really interesting. Just look at that volume. Over 368 million shares traded. Whoa. So this wasn't some quiet little drift downward. Nope. This was a loud, major event with a ton of people involved. It was an absolute battle between the buyers and the sellers. And well, on this particular day, the sellers clearly came out on top. But that huge volume, that's also a critical clue. It means there's a lot of interest in this stock. All right, now it's time to open up the forensic toolkit. Technical indicators, these are the tools analysts use to try and measure the market's psychology. All that fear and greed that's driving the price. And in the case of ASST, these tools are giving us some very, very different readings. Okay, so the first set of clues we're going to look at are the trend indicators. Their job is pretty simple. They're designed to tell us which way the stock's long-term momentum is heading. And right now,
Yeah, the answer is overwhelmingly negative.
so think of an indicator like the Arun oscillator. Think of it like it's measuring the strength of a river's current. And a number like negative 71.43, that's deeply negative. It means that current is just flowing powerfully downstream. So the evidence for a downtrend here, it's looking pretty strong. And this is a really key part of technical analysis, confirmation. You see, analysts almost never rely on just one signal. So here, you have the moving averages, which are basically just the stock's average price over different time periods, and they're all pointing down too. They're backing up everything the other trend indicators are telling us. So at this point, the case for continued drop, it seems pretty solid, right?
But just when we think the case is closed, we find our first piece of evidence that totally contradicts everything we've just seen. The momentum indicators, the ones that measure the speed of the price changes, they are telling a completely different and, frankly, a much more hopeful story.
Okay, this is absolutely fascinating. Take a look at the MACD histogram value. It's positive. Now, this is a classic signal called positive divergence. So what does that mean? It means that even though the stock price hit a new low, the momentum of that downward move was actually weaker than it was before. It's like the selling is running out of gas. This is a classic, early signal that a trend might be getting exhausted, and it's exactly the kind of subtle clue that traders who like to go against the crowd are looking for. And here's another clue that backs that idea up. The report points to a positive on-balance volume, or OBV. This is a really powerful tool that basically keeps a running tally of volume to see where the big money might be flowing. A positive OBV, especially when the price is dropping, suggests that on the days the stock ticks up, the buying volume is heavier than the selling volume on the days it ticks down. It hints that while some people might be panic selling, other, perhaps savvier traders, could be seeing an opportunity and are quietly buying up shares.
Okay, so now let's see how all these conflicting signals come together to create a sort of map of the battlefield. These are the key price levels where that fight between the buyers and sellers is probably going to be the most intense. These are the lines in the sand.
So this is the map every trader is going to be watching. The price right now is kind of floating around that pivot point at 143. Below that, you have your floors, what we call support levels, at 126 and even lower. And above it, you've got the ceilings or resistance at 160 and higher. The next big move for this stock is going to be defined by which one of these levels breaks first. So, with all the evidence on the table, the bearish trend, the bullish momentum, and those key price levels, the report now lays out 3 totally distinct scenarios for what could happen next. The jury is definitely still out on this one. Okay, first up, the bullish scenario. In this version of the future, those little hints of improving momentum, they win the day. The buyers get encouraged by seeing the selling slow down, and they jump back in with real force. The key thing you'd want to see for confirmation is another massive volume spike, but this time it would be pushing the price up and through that $1.60 ceiling. All right, next, the bearish case. In this scenario, that positive momentum we saw, it turns out it was just a little breather. The powerful downtrend takes back control, the buyers run for the hills, and the price smashes down through that critical floor at $1.26. And if that happens, it really opens the door for a much deeper slide. And last but not least, the neutral scenario. This is basically what happens when those conflicting forces are so evenly matched that it's a stalemate. Nobody wins. The stock just gets stuck in the mud, trading sideways around that 143 pivot point. And the volume starts to fade away as both sides just kind of wait for some new piece of information to tip the scales one way or the other. And this table here does a great job of summing it all up strategically. Each scenario has a really clear trigger to watch for and a measurable outcome. See, this isn't about having a crystal ball to predict the future. It's about defining the if-then conditions for each path so you can be prepared to react no matter what happens. So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that technical analysis hardly ever gives you a single crystal clear answer. What it does give you is a framework for understanding uncertainty and weighing probabilities. The story of ASST is just a perfect example of this. It's a battle between an established, powerful trend and this new, emerging momentum. And the final question it leaves us with is one that every single trader has to ask themselves. Do you bet with the powerful trend that's happening right now, or do you bet on those subtle little clues that suggest that trend is just about to change?